Greetings, friend, and thank you for joining me in one of my first recorded classes on here. So please excuse any video issues, audio issues, and whatnot. I'm still learning as we go. So today I am talking about what is Tantra, and this is module 1. I was supposed to record it during the live class and I completely forgot, so I'm having to do that in my own time. So what is Tantra? I believe that you probably have an interest in what that might mean, and this is why you signed up to take this class. And I'll just begin to say that Tantra is all about energy. And it's highly esoteric. It's an esoteric system of knowledge that came to us from India. And it's a mystical path, like any other path, any other mystical path. It's heavily based in spiritual knowledge, and it connects mind, body, and soul. And the practices that usually encompass Tantra are things that address the different layers of the body, not just the physical, but also the subtle. So the energy body, the emotional body, and the spiritual, or more like the spirit or the soul, which is known as the causal body. And the ultimate goal, of course, is transcendence. Transcendence of what? Transcendence of the ego and the attainment of, sometimes you can attain certain powers, and they're called siddhis. And this is achieved by the raising of Kundalini energy. And most of those practices are literally working with this Kundalini energy that resides in the bottom of the spine, and we're trying to bring this energy all the way up to the crown chakra. Now, a lot of people in the West today have confused this with sexuality, and they believe that Tantra is about sex. Well, there is a small part of Tantra that is connected with sexuality, and this is usually given to initiates and people who have been on the path for a long time. Once they've cleansed and cleared their system and are able to go on to the next stage. And this is where the sexual part comes in, because actually having sex is something that allows for us to work with the Kundalini energy. But if it is used prematurely or unwisely, it could end up leading to addictions and messing up the way that the Kundalini energy travels in the system. And I have actually talked about that in my book, so if you haven't read my book, I highly recommend you read it. I'm not going to go into that right now because that might be a separate course altogether. So this is basically it in a nutshell. Now, of course, Tantra originated in India thousands of years ago. I would say about 5,000 years ago, if not more. And it is said to be, by our modern scholars, the equivalent of yoga today. So back in the days, we can think of Tantra as yoga, yoga as Tantra. There is no separation. But these days, we give each one a different name. The reason being is that these tantrikas were actually moving their bodies however the body needed, and certain yogic postures emerged from these dances, and we called them asana. But originally they were a dance. And a huge part of Tantra is known as sahaja. And sahaja is allowing the body to move however it wants to move. Sort of like Kriya Yoga, just allowing that movement to just happen without trying to control, but also sourcing that movement from inside the person and allowing their body to move in certain ways that they need. Because, of course, what we need is usually not what someone else needs. So that's something really important to remember about Tantra. And Tantra is divided into two major categories. And of course, there are many different tantric paths, and I can't even tell you what they are because I haven't really studied them in depth. But I'm more concentrating on, what's it called? Mind blank. So I concentrate more on the Shaiva tradition, and like I said, there are many different paths, but I really don't know what they are. Like, that's a whole nother class in itself, and maybe I'll do one eventually once I get there, if I find myself interested in studying that, the different paths. But I like to take things from a larger perspective, and so those two different parts are the left-hand Tantra and the right-hand Tantra. Now, the left-hand Tantra is usually called the red Tantra, and it's non-dualistic. So it believes that everything is just one, and everything is sacred, and there's no concept of sin, or no concept of something is pure or impure, and all kinds of foods are allowed. There are no restrictions whatsoever. The right-hand Tantra, on the other hand, is called the white Tantra, and this one is pluralistic, and this is where we see all the deities, and we'll be covering that in another module. And the different Hindu practices come in with the right-hand path. So the left-hand path is called Vamachara, and the right-hand path is called Dakshina Chara. Just the Sanskrit names. And so basically, just remembering that there are those two kinds of tantras, and if you're drawn to learn about either one of them, kind of like focusing wherever you want, or you could just learn about the two. It's not a problem. I think for me personally, I tend to just take the things that resonate with me from whatever spiritual path, and I work with them. And sometimes I work with them for a little bit, and then I just let them go, and something else will replace it. And life is like that. It's about growth. So in the Tantric tradition, there is this philosophy known as Samkhya, and I'll write it in the class somewhere. I'll provide how to spell it and write it. And this philosophy believes that there are certain principles of the universe, certain laws that cannot be changed, that are constant and cyclical. And those are known as the tattvas. And I have a chart in here, and you can refer to that chart. But basically, these tattvas are how the universe came to be from consciousness. So it's like a map of the universe coming to being. And each one of those tattvas grows out of the other. Within this whole scheme, we have consciousness that brings about matter, or Purusha is consciousness that brings out Prakriti. And then from there, we move into the more dense aspects of our physical life until we get to the 5 elements: earth, air, fire, water, and ether. And those we'll get into a little bit more in our second module, because we will be working with the mudras, which are very heavily based on the channels in the body, and the channels in the body also relate to these elements. Not to digress, but it's all interrelated. So I'm trying to kind of give it in chunks and break it down as much as possible for anyone who's new to the tradition and to yoga and to all these concepts, so that you can grasp them. And I do have some notes because I don't want to miss anything that I want to talk about. So forgive me if I keep looking down and back up. Anyhow, so within these 5 elements, they are actually sort of like the basis of the work when it comes to working on energy, because you'll see them relating to the chakras in the body, and the chakras are the energy centers or vortices that are said to be very powerful and relating to the emotional body, and we'll get into those again in the next module, but this is kind of like an introduction. So they relate to the chakras, they relate to the fingers, they also relate to the organs of the body, they relate to the different ways in which the energy moves in the body, as well as they relate to the way the energy moves in the universe. Another thing to remember about Tantra is that Kundalini energy is not just the energy that travels up the spine. It is said to be a serpent sleeping at the base of the spine and travels all the way up. But Kundalini energy is literally the energy of the entire universe. It's everywhere. It's what creation is made of. These glasses are made of energy. It's just concentrated in a different form than my body and your body and this notebook. And then the distance between me and the camera, and between me and you even, is full of energy particles. So this is a really important concept to grasp as well while studying Tantra. Another important part is everything in creation is always moving and vibrating. And this vibration is referred to as spanda. And when we're working with energy, of course, we're working with vibration. And this is where you'll see the mantras come in, because when we vibrate those sounds, we're literally implanting them in our energetic body. I hope that makes sense. And the universe at large vibrates within 3 different categories. They are known as sattva, rajas, and tamas. Sattva is purity, and anything can be imbued with purity. Rajas is passion. Again, we can see passion in different ways in life. It could be passion about work, could be passion about someone, it could be just passion for life. And then tamas is darkness or ignorance, and ignorance can show up again in different ways. So these are the vibrations in which energy can vibrate throughout the universe. And our job is to always balance it out and equalize it. When we feel ourselves getting very lazy, that's going to be tamas. We're going to try and lift that vibration up a little bit. And those practices, all of them that we're going to be talking about in module 2, the meditation, the asana, the mudra, the mantra, the bijas, all of those, the breath work, all of those are working to help us constantly come to balance our doshas, which is our constitution, to balance our mental chatter, to balance our whole energetic body and our physical, including our physical body as well. And I'm not sure how many know, but if you have been in the yoga world for some time, you probably heard of the mantra, I'm going to call it Yoga Chitta Vritti Nirodha, which means that yoga is the ability to still the fluctuations of the mind. Now, the vrittis are actually the distractions of life. And yoga is what helps us relax the hold of those distractions on our consciousness in a variety of ways, through asana and all those other practices that we will be talking about in module 2. And of course, yoga, when we say yoga, we're also implying Tantra. So just learn from here and on, yoga equals Tantra. Okay? So this will be my offering for now. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open it after you listen to this. If there's a question on your mind or a topic that you would like me to unpack a little further, please write your comment or send it to me via email, because I'm still learning about this platform and I'm not sure if there's a place where you can write, but I'm pretty positive I saw that there might be. So write your comment or your question and I can answer it, but perhaps we could also schedule a Zoom and talk about it, or I could also record another recording and post it, and we'll see how that will work out. Any question, anything that you would like me to go into depth about for this module, for this first module, after you look over the offerings on this section, please reach out and let me know. And if I think of anything else to share within this module, I will definitely be adding to it. All right, have fun and let me know if you have questions in the future. Bye until the next module.